before I start, quick intro. That's the best, most flattering photo I have of myself. That's still me, I promise. And I specialize in international SEO. I'm an independent consultant. I'm based in Barcelona. My agency background is what defined my kind of way of work, but now I try to kind of get away of just agency. I'm trying to be more bespoke. And personally, I'm a huge fan of search engines beyond Google. I always try to sneak something in, and that's what I'm going to try to do today. So I'm going to speak predominantly about Google, but I'm still going to try to mention here and there something else than Google. Let's start with the agenda for today so you know what to expect. We'll do a quick history of personalized search, so we know where we are, where we come from. We'll define personalized search because there's different definitions, and we're going to agree on one for the sake of this presentation. We will look at examples because theory is boring. Examples are always more interesting. We'll do some testing, which I will kindly ask your help with. And we will try to guess what it all means. But that's as I said, far-fetched because we are all new to this future of search thing. So let's go. A quick history of personalized search. So that's my very, very personalized draft of personalized search. Personalized search was announced by Google in 2004. So that's the starting point. And it feels like we all intuitively know it's always been increasing over time, but it's the one thing that is the most difficult to measure because it's not something you can do at scale via any tool at all. Like no tool does that. So that's my draft of how we feel. And now I thought a good idea to understand what personalized search was over time is to look at SEO Twitter. So SEO Twitter started with, is this new? As kindly mentioned by Judith, who did not know. That's what I'm going to talk about at some point. And that's the majority of tweets to Boris Schwartz at some point in the history. That were later followed by, is this new or am I late? So it feels like SEOs started to pay attention that they might not actually be aware of something, and they might think it's new, but it's not really new. And the latest of those tweets look very much like, obviously not new, but maybe is it? Is it? In case I'm the first one to see it, but I kind of assume it's not new. So gloriously, that's how the meme came to life, because 99% of times, Barry would say not new. Now, with a raise of hands, which one of you has ever tweeted Barry or X'd Barry asking if something is new? Did anyone here try to kind of present to him a help feature? I did several times, never new. I confirm. So let's define personalized search. First of all, we look at location. Location is one of the first things that can personalize your results. You have language, search history, and device. And that's the common division throughout SEOs. Now, it's important to mention that in Google documentation, personalized search is only device and search history. They claim that language and location is personalization independent. But I would argue, for the sake of this conversation, we need to include it because it's very much personalizing your results. And now we have two groups of personalization groups. We have explicit signals. This is all of those. So explicitly, you have a device that has got a certain made. You have a search history because if you're logged in, it's there. You have a language because you're always letting your language know by the query. And you have the location, which is always known as well. But you have two implicit signals, which is either location or language. Because if your location or your language doesn't match what Google can see, so for example, you search for local results from somewhere else than your current location, it will be personalized in a different way. And if a language is not the language you usually use, your results will be adjusted to the fact it's a foreign language to you, and very much will impact the way your results are presented. But that's theory, and we don't like theory too much. So I'm just going to add a disclaimer. We're talking about search experience personalization. Search experience as per searching, not website personalization, which is a completely different thing, which HubSpot and Sitecore have been big on, which is personalizing content within the user journey. I'm not going to talk about that. Personalization can be many things. I'm going to focus on the SEO part. And let's go to the practice part. So let's look at the examples. we have 3 levels of personalization. Classic SERP personalization, which has been around for a very long time, and I feel like we've not even realized how present it is. It's omnipresent. We have Google products beyond classic search that are very much personalized. And we have the top layer, which is AI-powered discoverability. I didn't want to say search because I feel like AI should be named something completely different. And I love the term discoverability. It's like a next level thing in search or beyond search even. So let's start with examples from the third tier, which is classic SERP personalization. And now let's see how many of you will actually realize you are so used to it, you forgot its personalization. I tried to order them from the most common and old to the newest kind of SERP innovation there. First one, from New York Times. Disclaimer as well. I work a lot in tourism industry because one of my clients is Tourism of Barcelona, so I'm very much aware of those SERPs. So I've used plenty of examples from that sphere, so it's going to be tourism related. That's just a random thing because that's what I know about the most these days. So first, personalization type. We all seen it, we all know it, we all are aware of it, but I don't think we call it personalization day to day. Meta descriptions being rewritten. That's just so obvious because it's believed that more than 50% of all meta descriptions are being rewritten, and it's happening all the time. Second type, titles being rewritten. And it used to be just because of the length. So Google used to rewrite it just because the length was different. Now it's actually improving the titles very much. So in this case, the original title is Tourism in Barcelona, Tourism, Barcelona City Council. And Google has rewritten it just to avoid the duplication of the wording. It's interesting because the original one is 55 characters. So perfect length, right? So the length is not the actual criteria. The criteria is improving the messaging, not to repeat the wording. And that happens more and more often. I mean, this year, I think we've seen the most titles being written so far. Now, this seems obvious, we're so used to it, but it's still personalization. Keywords and synonyms being bold in the meta description. So every single user will see a very different thing when they search a specific way. Title in purple. We do forget about it because it's so obvious UX from Google, but it is personalized towards what you've visited in the past. So automatically it will draw your attention. If you see 10 results and one of them is purple, you will kind of automatically realize you have seen that before. And something that used to show up a lot, and I couldn't find it recently. So this is an old screenshot someone else took, actually. You've visited this page 4 times, last visit, blah, 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 and the date. Enforcing the fact that you've seen something before, it must be interesting to you again. Because users do want to come back to old results quite a lot, not just discovering new things. And something that I've only started to see very recently, a small icon indicating there is historical visit to a page within site links. So obviously the domain of my client, Tourism of Barcelona, but then 2 of these pages I have visited a lot recently, and they are marked with a specific icon. So Google wants you to come back to what you know, because familiar for marketing usually means better, right? So that's the traditional ones. That's the boring type. We all know them, right? We've seen them again and again. Let's go to Google products beyond search. Because classic search, it's not enough anymore, is it? And what I mean beyond classic search and Google products, I mean Google Maps, and I mean Google Discover. 2 very strong products with its own algorithm, own search engine, and own personalization. Both very much based on personalization. That's the whole core of both of the products. They don't exist without it. So Maps, I'm not going to dwell into local SEO. That's a completely whole new conversation and presentation. But just to say, location is obviously the priority aspect of personalization there, and you can't escape it. I mean, Google Maps don't work without location at all. Let's look very briefly at Discover. So the definition of Discover is personalized content feed. I mean, personalization is at the core of this product. And it's interesting how it formerly was known as Google Now and then Google Feed, and then it rebranded to Google Discover. I think the rebrandings that Google makes to their products show the importance they put on a given product. So the more it rebrands, the more shape and form it gets, and the more investment in the future it gets. the strategy of Discover is push. So it's completely against the inbound marketing as we know it in SEO. Yet, somehow, Google Discover lays within SEO and not another department, not paid, not social. The SEO takes care of it usually if a company is eligible for Discover and has any visibility there. So that's an interesting thought. You change your strategy completely, but still, this is for you to kind of figure out, right? And it is primarily based on your search history and browsing, but then secondarily, it's tailored by your interactions and feedback. So there's 2 layers of personalization. And Google launching Discover absolutely showed us where the future lays. And that was way before AI and anything like that came into play, right? And Google already knew personalizing is the way to go to keep capturing the traffic that maybe search is not gonna resist way more in the future. And now the fresh, the juicy bit, AI-powered discoverability. So yeah, on purpose, avoiding the word search discoverability because it's a completely next level concept. And I think in Europe, we should get used to using it more. I feel like in US, they already kind of have departments called discoverability, people who are kind of managing discoverability. And in Europe, I think we're still very cautious with that term, but I feel like it's the future. So we have 2 main players, AI overviews, which I'm not going to dwell into because the first presentation fantastically set the context here. And we have Gemini, which I don't know if you've noticed for the last couple of weeks has been really pushed at Chrome. So anything you type in suddenly can become Gemini response instead of a search in your Chrome browser. Not every profile in Chrome. I have several for different clients, and some of them have been more noisy with the Gemini context than the other ones. But that's the 2 ways of pushing away the search and combining that part of push with pull. So we have both at the same time. So you give them a little prompt, but then you are pushed with a response instead of just given a choice. Completely different thinking about the user experience. So, theory, examples, blah, blah, blah. The best way to look at personalization is to test it. So I'm going to ask for your help. Please, everyone, take out your mobile phone. May it be Android, may it be iPhone, may it be another make. Because we're going to test a specific query, which I've tested before. And I feel like we're going to have very interesting results. Specifically that we have audience coming from different places and different backgrounds, so it will be interesting. Let's please all Google Cracovia spelled like this, which is a Latin spelling of the city Krakow. Or, not just Latin, Spanish and Italian as well. I can see everyone is nicely Googling. Love that. How many of you can see soccer? And how many of you see knowledge graph about the city? Interesting. That's exactly the results I have found.
How many of you are Bing?
No. I said Googling. Not Binging. So that's the result that my partner, who's originally from Spain, has got a Spanish verified Google profile, has gotten Googling from the same IP as me, the same Wi-Fi address. No personalization beyond where we are sit. We didn't put any VPN. We didn't do anything else, right? His Chrome, his screenshot. Cracovia is simply the city. I have seen another, I think Pablo, right? We didn't speak, but I think the name says you are Spanish, potentially. So I've seen you raise the hand, seeing the same one. And then me, I'm also based in Barcelona. I also live there. I also Google in Spanish quite a lot, more in Polish than in Polish, actually. And that's my result. And that's the majority of you, right? If you look at those 2 SERPs, there is zero overlap, zero. Not an organic result, not the also asked, not the knowledge graph, not the related searches. Nothing at all is the same. And now, frankly, that result scared me because it's way more personalized than I have anticipated by showing this presentation. I kind of hoped to show 10 results here, 10 results there, and show you how different the positions are. But we're not talking about positions here. We're talking about visibility, 100% visibility, here or not, right? Depending on what's your Google's association with the local sport, language and culture, because let's face it, that's really it, right? So these two experiences, impressions, clicks, completely different, completely apart. This means we can't really blindly trust just data. There's so much personalized experience in every single aspect of Google these days. Not every query will be the same. Of course, I've picked the query that's more related to differences in personalization than the other ones. But I think the trend is very much clear. We're all going in the same direction of not knowing what the other person next to us Googling the same thing sees. More and more and more, and that's going to increase because that's what Google wants us to see, the things that are related to us. That being said, we know we're in this era of personalization and the era of tools, and just quantitative analysis is not enough. What is coming? First of all, we've spent too much time seeking the data, and now it's time to humanize our approach. So human-centered, user-centered approach is the only way for really getting out there one step ahead of SEO. I mean, search volume, what does it even mean anymore if the SERP is not the same, right? So this means that your buyer persona should become your search persona. So whatever marketing has been doing in a traditional way, in a scientific way, on the big picture way, you should take it and apply it to search. And make your search experience really that one kind of unique thing to what is your audience. And how to make that happen, because obviously big words have to be applicable, right? You create a unique Google profile and you generate and populate it with relevant searches. So Google has got the exact idea, and you create that persona that is going to be your future customer, your future searcher, your future discoverability persona. And based on that, you can share it with your entire SEO team for qualitative research. So if you have 5 people in your team, 3 people in your team, whatever your team is, the idea is when you look into Google SERP manually, you actually go in within a certain profile that has got that background, that idea behind it. Doesn't mean you don't look at the data. You obviously do. But data doesn't tell the full story. You need to kind of combine the personalized human qualitative approach with the big picture numbers, average positions and all that, and combine the two into a comprehensive strategy, because one doesn't work without the other. So the future is personal. We can't avoid it. We can't simplify it. We have to go with it, and we have to do the best we can. Please stay in touch. Ask me any questions you might have. I'm curious to see the debate, and thank you for listening.